Tell me what you don't know. Hey now, put up a fight, I know how I won't let go. Hands out to the sky, we reach for tomorrow. Break down, look at your life, why you wanna be known. Head down, look in my eyes, tell me what you don't know. Put up a fight, I know how I won't let go. Hands out to the sky, we reach for tomorrow. No, we don't wanna die, we'd rather be alone. Are you the animal, cannibalistic missile, crushing all around? Are you the animal? Do you remember out on a limb you listen quiet all around? Are you the animal? I'm not afraid of you. I feel we're ready to die. But time is on my side. Feel it going inside me, but you'll never find me. I need my heart to make me moving down to LA, to the land of opportunity. My grandma thinks I'm crazy for giving Hollywood a piece of me. I'm holding my head high, act like the world's mine. I didn't come for nothing, and all I know is I can't let them see. I got no idea what I'm doing. Take it all till I make it all the way. I've been winning, I've been losing, but you're never gonna read my poker face. Take it all till I make it
Paid artists living off the hype. They got no longevity in the game, they got no stripes. No longer social in person, they live on social media. So social skills are not working because they live for likes. It's all a make-believe world, but they love living in the bubbles. They scrolling and reading all the BS you type. Just for attention, a couple shares or a mention. It's meaningless, but it's like nobody wanna deal with real life. I spit that real life, say what's on my mind. I will not pander to the climate of the deaf, dumb and blind. Never dumbing down my bars, only realness in the lines. You will only hear the honesty and passion in my rhymes. I'm staying connected cause I perfected my art form. This show I directed, calm and collected, rated, respected, stayed on course and never deflected. Flow like electric, I'm gonna set this off, no apology. I move metric, yeah man, I'm still moving imperial. My techers are moving hectic.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barnow. This is Eback, and we are back here at Reflex Championship. We are here in Playday 2, I think, and we have a fantastic game for you tonight. We've got some Siege for you. Eback, who are we casting tonight?
It's Esports Wales up against Hyperion 5. The Hyperion 5, as we've kind of kept under wraps.
We've
We don't know whether
rebranded for them. We've taken
we
the
don't
work
know.
out of the equation for them.
We don't know whether to fully call them that because they've got to perform well in order for us to call them that. And so far, all they've done is lose. I think that has been unfortunate for them. Also unfortunate for them is the run of games they've had. They played against Sam Clan and Onsite, who are two of the most informed teams at the moment, who I'm really excited to see. And we will see them the third match later today, ladies and gents. If you're going to skip this or skip any match in particular, make sure you come back, especially for that last one, because it is on site against Sam Klein. I'm not saying do, Barnow. I'm saying just if they're not that interested, tune in for the last one, definitely. But right here, it's going to be quite interesting. So both of these
we've got to get them warmed up. We've got to get these viewers in the mood and in the space. But these games are going to be ragged all the way through. Both these teams obviously want to take it away, and there have been some shuffles in. There have been some shuffles in the leaderboard. Now, as you've mentioned, Hyperion 5 looking decent in moments, and they had such a hard run against Onsite and Sam Clan. But one thing to point out is in those matches, they put up a fight. It ended up often going away from them. Sometimes the scoreboard looked really quite dire, but the rounds were very rarely stomped. They were very rarely stolen wholeheartedly. They always put up a good fight. And to be honest, as we attend our first outing, I think, to Villa here in Reflex Championships of this season. Hey, we're not playing. Is it not? Oh, well, then I'm just ignoring. I just don't know anything.
Zeta Intensity was on Villa.
Oh, well, that's why I deleted it from my memory then.
Yes.
We come back. Hopefully, Hyperion can give us a good show, and hopefully, Esports Wales can find that spark, the energy that we so far. I don't think we've really seen them click into gear. They're still teasing the clutch slightly.
So Science said in the pre-match, the
Science.
more lighting, the better. So in that spirit, I fixed my light up there, and I've got 2 torches as well. So welcome everyone to the game. It's gonna be an absolute. He's dying in my ear.
Nailed it.
He's a huge fan. But you know what? These are actually. Wait, give me a sec, Barnow. Talk about the history of these teams, especially in terms of maps and how interesting that is, given what we're seeing here today.
No, but what we do have is the ban phase. Thatcher coming out as the first attacking ban here on Villa. Not one of the maps where breaches are the most important, but Ace coming off the board as well will make them a little bit harder. Make sure we have the Thermite and the Hibana. We often see hard breach coming out on trophy attacks, often on the statuary to master bedroom wall. Sometimes when open things at AVG, but apart from that, it's pretty fluid. Clyde's gonna make we have a quick cut back to Cat. I can't see what you guys are seeing, so I hope it's funny. Okay, I just switched back. Again, no, I'm back. Do it for me. Do it again for me.
Oh, that's scarier.
Oh, that is good. Your beard really interacts well with it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm interested about the record of these teams, as both teams lost to Onsite on Oregon. And they weren't the most convincing performances from either. And I think...
Why are you laughing?
I'm not... let's go back into the game a bit more. I think both teams have been disappointing so far in various aspects. But today is the time to turn it around. Today is a good chance for both teams who have played 2 games each and had mixed results to really step up and enjoy themselves. And Villa is the perfect place for a new lease on life.
It really is, and I'm interested to see. I think Hyperion 5, chose to attack. Now, Villa, one of those places was consistently thought of as defender-sided, but we're seeing a real shift these days where defender-sided places really aren't. Like, statistically, the attackers are having a pretty good advantage, actually, in so many of these matchups.
Cairo said something about that last time, how I think it's in NA, it was something around 60-odd% was attacker favoured at the moment, and we saw that being true within this very league. on that particular matchup, so I don't think it's going to be any exception. Hyperion 5, they want to get off to a strong start, and I imagine they will hit on AVG.
Just realized that my OBS was muted that whole time.
Have you... You've been silent the whole stream.
I think I probably have.
Okay, we're okay. But...
Sounded I understand. Cool, we're good. I just have no idea what I'm doing. All right. Hopefully Blue does, however, as he's sending the Gemini through into statue to try and clear out any roamers. Nothing found so far. Looking sick, but MP9 starts things off, gets a pick over onto Ben, the roaming bandit. Where was that?
I'm not sure where that was exactly. MP9 returning to the squad. I think he was absent last time. They had some switches around in 5. Regardless, Ben, first one to 4. It is 5 versus 4 advantage for those attacking the strong start they wanted. We see some air jabs going down as well. A good spread bunch of operators. They can do what they want to do, and they're certainly capable. Jet being that sneaky man who could come up behind. It's going to be an interesting battle between him and Leo.
Very close. Nitro Summon doesn't catch anything. The roam clear is almost complete on the trophy side, and Ben is going to start theming out his way back. As Leo gets so close on the window, but doesn't quite manage to spot him before Kurt can get his way back into sight. We're pretty much down to a full sight lock here down, apart from still roaming Jet. Matt, however, falls off the board. Jet just creeping up. He is behind the attack as he lands some shots, takes a load of damage, but he does down Mana. The grenade, however, throws does cover, and while the Zofia if Stizzy is finally knocked off, the grenade does secure the kill. Defenders have a severe disadvantage in last minute here.
Ooh, they've lost the smoke quite crucially, so that delay is not going to be great. With 1 minute left, there is very little to do. No C4 either for Kurt. So just hard angles held by the defenders. They have to win out these fights. The Older is the weapon you would want to do that, and Dot is going to be the man relied upon. Here comes the first man. Out, Blue.
The flashbang blinds the Melusi over on the stairs, but they're not spotted. They peek out and miss the shot. A beautiful flick from Leo puts Melusi in the ground and then pushed for MP9 and clears out Trophy. Unfortunate there that Melusi didn't manage to net any of those heads. It looked like he peeked around unseen, but just Leo with a beautiful flick.
They opted for a very single-sided push. You often don't see attackers ignoring study that much, but they got Hunting Vault open. They got all sorts of... They did exactly what they wanted to do, Hyperion, and the most importantly on that list of things that you want to do is win the first round and get things off to a strong start. Winning AVG on your attack, fantastic way to begin this game. Esports Wales already on the back foot. They're going to back across to the other side of the top floor to Trophy and Statuary with a similar lineup, but one or two key differences are on this site in particular. Mostly that Wamai and Jaeger combo is striking me.
Yeah, we haven't lost the Elder, it hasn't moved the hands, the Jaeger being switched out over to Dot. Now, we saw Jet there on that hefty roam, and it has to be pointed out that the fact that, as I always say, if you bring Nomad, you win. Leo has jumped across onto that. No, he was playing it last time. Is playing the Nomad, and you've got to imagine those jabs are going to be on those staircases to slow down and stop those roaming flanks. Which I think helped a lot and stopped the roaming Jaeger from really having the freedom to flank up other staircases and cut behind those takes.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Looks like a fairly standard looking room. We've got the Jaeger down to help clear out certain areas and probably defend the Melusi, perhaps. He's barricading off a lot of library in that area to slow down attackers from pushing across that first floor. And she's going to be really potent if she stays downstairs with a nitro cell in hand.
She certainly will be. You've got to keep an eye out for Kurt. Can be an absolute nightmare on some of those roams.
MP9 looks like he's vibing. He's bobbing around, he's coming in, he's let a number of kills. He's got a 3k in the first round to clear out that initial roam and secure the last. He's definitely going to be starting things off feeling good, which really is quite a significant thing. Having that kind of confidence and feel like you're enjoying the game matters an awful lot, and it's going to really start to hurt Esports Wales if they can't hold up the barriers to this. Now we see a lot of teams that have that resilience that they can lose and stand back up, and if Esports Wales are going to push themselves up the score, but I think we're going to need to see a bit of strength.
Sorry, but I'm really struggling at the moment. Do keep.
Oh, is your connection suffering? Well, currently we're approaching that mid-round, the mid-map stale point. We have the attackers lining up across on that south side over by Master Bedroom, getting their drones in, finding out where these potential roamers are, while they kind of consider how they want to make this execute. It looks pretty lateral for now, nothing much of a vertical clear from the attackers, and the Melusi is still below with a Nitro Cell to either flank or blow them up from underneath. The defenders just stacked here in trophy and statuary, lining up and creating these crossfires, making entry rather difficult. Looks like an explosion, however, has gone off by that trophy entrance doorway. A vertical angle from beneath there could be really punishing, though that might be a wasted Nitro Cell. Yeah, we can see Kurt the Melusi has expended it, so no more explosions from below. But they're still downstairs. They could still come up for a late flank, and that could really punish Hyperion 5 later in the round.
Matt's starting to burn his canisters. There is the first to try and slow them down a little bit outside of trophy entranceway. He is the sole man trying to hold trophy by himself. Elsewhere, there's a lot of utility still on the board for Esports Wales, and given that the time is ticking on by, it's going to benefit them a lot. Matt being the first one to take a lot of damage, but Kurt is the first one to actually fall. Those smoke canisters being very useful to buy a little bit more time for the smoke. Enough to take out MP9, who snuck in, and the man behind him across the map. Ben gets, I think, a double. I can't tell, it's blurry. Barno, you take it.
He does manage to secure a double, and the MP5 elsewhere picks up a kill. Although we have still 3 defenders remaining, it looks like the push from Hyperion 5 was just too one-sided, and the guns of Esports Wales came to life and really shut down that push. Ibana, they're trying to make something happen by Master, but at that point, far, far too late. A little bit too simple from Hyperion 5 there, a little bit too from one direction. They didn't really clear out the roamers, they didn't try and have Master Bedroom presence for 2 minutes of that round, maybe a bit more. All of them were just stacked out by landing a 90 corridor.
Yeah, it's a very different round from what we saw first time out from Hyperion. Hyperion were quite effective, quite efficient. They made sure that they moved in, got the stuff they needed to happen done quite quickly, and then took on in and made that push happen. This time, I'm not sure it was being too careful, because they didn't get too much of the utility they would want burn necessarily straight away. It seemed just a little bit almost lazy, a little bit off the pace. The sort of thing you'd expect from a first round, but not after that first round that we just saw.
Yeah, I mean, the first one we saw was a Hyperion 5 that made a really unified entry. They pushed all together in through Master, they got a kill, and they were together. So if that fight had gone the other direction, they would have been there for the refrag. And then they fairly quickly began to circle AVG. And you can afford to do that because you do have that stairwell there. You have Study, which are relatively easy places to enter. Astro is much harder to enter. The stairwell and window are death traps, and Master Bedroom itself can be a bit of a dangerous area as well. And I think for that, it's become a little bit harder for them to do that kind of take the ground they want, then they encircle and have the angles, and then they just were pushed a little bit too late by getting that Hibano just by herself in Master, and by that point, a fumbled entry across landing was just really punished. But we are back over at AVG. Drones coming out here to clear out Astro. We have the roaming Jaeger, Jet once more, over here on Astro's stairs. The drone's pinging his location exactly, and he's just wondering where is the push going to come from, if at all. Ben is also on the roam. He was the first to fall in the first round, but the drone's close to him. But we see from Hyperion 5 a similar thing. Look at all 4 of those people, all there entering by Master. Zofia taking the ground. Jet hasn't really backed off too far, though. He's still playing near those Astro stairs, looking to contest. If he leaves him too much freedom, though, Leo's going to get those air jabs down and make his life a whole lot harder.
It's a tough job on this particular roam, especially when the entire team is taking from that side. If it works for you, great, you might get a whole bunch of kills, but most of the time you're just walking up against a wall and you're not really going to be able to get through it very easily. Ben is on the opposite side of that wall, looking to make a bit of a weakness, but he's been spotted. It's going to be very difficult for him to push. He's shooting from underneath, getting some damage onto MP9, and the first kill is in the hands of the defenders, but it's instantly traded out.
Interesting there, those vertical angles he was firing, they looked like a fluffed C4 from beneath. He didn't manage to throw it towards the target, but the angles helped Ben. They're continuing on. Blue falls as well to join Leo, and for the first time we see the defenders with a man advantage on an AVG attack.
MP9 taking some damage and finished off by an Evil Eye!
Oh, that's
From
gonna
within
sting.
the site, Dot making great use of his utility to put the defenders 4-2 up. Now, this is a strong position, but still some utility in the hands of Hyperion 5, and a good amount of time to make something happen. Jet sneaking around underneath could be a bit of a problem, but oh
No, that's that's my own play where I got difficult take. It's difficult. And vanished again, and it threw me off. Yeah, left by themselves, making a bit of an effort to get that breach onto Trophy, but really not an awful lot of space to move there as the defenders just can flock around and establish every angle under the sun that they want to. But with a successful defense now of AVG, we see the defenders move to kitchen and dining for the first time.
I'm not sure if anyone can hear me. I can't really hear you, but I'm just going to stay nice and quiet. Sorry, ladies and gents. I'm just going to try and watch along and then pop in every now and then.
Okay. I'm just going to check the live chat, make sure I haven't missed anything massive.
No, it's just me.
Everything's
having some
exploding.
issues.
My laptop's about to die. I think my laptop might actually die. Hold on. My mic has gone weird.
Okay, well, I'll try and talk about these lineups a bit.
I'm the problem here. You take hold of this.
Can
I'll figure
hear
this
me.
out.
Yeah, there's always something going on, ladies and gents. But what's going on right now for the defense of Esports Wales? They've mixed things up a bit. They have gone to, is that the downstairs site? It is the downstairs site, and they've brought some very different operators for it. We've got Pulse on Kurt, relatively anticipated here with his strong C4 play working vertically to stop those attackers from taking the ground and enjoying that luxury. And Matt also, with some castle barricades, can make sure, depending on where he puts them, it can be a lot more difficult for the attackers to take, especially upstairs, which is where we usually see them. Thank you for pointing that out, Max D. He's got one on the Astro window. He's put some closer to site as well. One on the pantry stairs and one out by furniture. So a lot to do for those attackers, especially. There's a lot of players to clear out and a lot of utility on the board also that can be a bit of an issue for them. Now, if the blurry blobs on my screen and colors are correct, it looks like the attackers have moved into living room. And they are droning themselves out. They've taken a bit of ground already opposite the site, which we often see contested by a lot of defenses. Quite a few teams do like to have roaming presence in and around that area, but they've left that for now. They've let the attackers take it. There is a player above, most notably Dot, I believe, on the Malusi. Could be a bit of an issue, potentially, for those players. Also, Ben still holding above. Very little presence from the attackers up here at the moment. I don't know if Barnal has actually died. At the moment, he's muted for me, so I don't know if what's going on in that regard. It seems like he's going to be going back, ladies and gents.
Bomb located by attackers.
Yep, apologies if my play-by-plays are about 20 seconds behind when I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm sure you can see a lot better than me right now. Still, I can tell there's 5 players versus 5. But as soon as I say that, it changes. Two defenders, being taken out by Hyperion 5, but struck back. Blue being taken out on the Iana. Here comes the attacking push, and now the plant can go down from the Fana. She jumps off as she's aware Malusi's presence is there. Also, the bandit of Ben coming back up to try and provide some extra resistance. A C4 still in his hands, but he doesn't delay Hazmat enough to stop that defuse, and he's taken out. So only the Malusi of Dot remaining against 3 men. Plant already down. There's a lot to do here. He doesn't have intel clearly on where these players are, and he is shut down by the Ash at the death. MP9, that is well played from him to finish the round. I think that, oh, hello.
What do you think? While I try and pop back in, how are we
that
quality
round,
lowered already?
Esports Wales playing very passively on their defense. They didn't initiate too much. They weren't playing particularly aggressively. They sat back and were kind of punished for it in the end. The roaming players more caught off than not, and they didn't manage to delay too much in the end. So I think Hyperion 5, they played it relatively by the book, and they were, I don't want to say gifted a lot of opportunities, but they certainly took any opportunities, any openings that came their way. So they thoroughly deserved that round. And 2-all is a pretty fair score at this point. Esports Wales, if they can be less passive, I think when they are more actively trying to make around theirs on their defenses, they do better. When they sit back and let the other team play, they really, really struggle.
Yeah, and I think we noticed back on that last AVG round, the last one I already saw, Hyperion 5, they're moving together an awful lot, but I think when Esports Wales can challenge that and they push against that, Hyperion 5 are not actually holding together all that well. And I don't know how much of Dining really saw them move together and stuff, but I did notice when they were attacking AVG back in round 3, it really felt like if you can give a good hard shove, they don't really swarm and flock for the refrags and punish you immediately for that. They don't have that same kind of, a drone goes somewhere and is immediately followed by a gunner. Kind of diligence and, I don't know, activity to them.
Yeah, I think it's almost a lack of aggression, which is strange to say in a tier 4 match. But there you go. I think that is the message. I think if you want to win, you put your neck on the line for a round and really contest it, you'll probably win. That's pretty much the tale of the first 4 rounds. And now in round 5, you can take that step forwards. Both teams will want to be 4-2 at the switch. And it's going to take quite a bit here. Both teams relatively inconsistent.
Now,
this round will be quite telling.
It will be, because attacking the trophy again, this is where we saw Hyperion 5 come sweeping across from the south together. We have these two teams of 2 playing Aviator and 90, but Hibana heading over to attack Master Bedroom all by herself. Not a role you would often have as your 5th person with no one to support. Often Hardbreach is prioritized and defended and considered, and I think with the Evil Eye there, and the player in washrooms that will be there to fight back if Hibana tries to take the ground, that breach is unlikely to go down, which is going to leave us exactly where we were last time, which is just sweeping across from landing in 90 and succeeding in very, very little.
Yeah, well, it looks pretty similar all round compared to last time, because 2 minutes have ticked on by in this round and not much ground really taken by Hyperion that wasn't given to them, and no kills on the board. Matt had a standout performance over in Trophy last time, Ben getting a couple of kills as well. And now he's contesting towards red, but he's taken out.
I'm liking this. We see the Yana actually rotate to the windows to assist the Hibana. The Gemini spots out where that Evil Eye was. Oh, the flank, no, from Kirk. They managed to sweep into the site, but Kirk is still on the roam, not dealt with. Stizzy is on this other side of the soft wall too. Oh, no, it's not soft. Other side of the wall, though, to Malusi elsewhere. Jet eats an absolute massive damage, but it's still a 3 versus 3. There's only 20 seconds left.
Oh, Kurt taking a good amount of damage onto Blue, and he finishes the job, but he's traded out eventually by the Zofia of Stizzy. 14 seconds left to execute. 2 versus 2. Those Evil Eyes still intact, and given the low health of this Zofia, she could be denied, but there isn't, I believe, an Evil Eye nearby. Jaeger gets a kill onto one of the supporting players, and then the Maestro finishes the job with the Alder. Sweeping round, yes, from Astro to conclude the round. Again for the defenders on trophy. I think Hyperion 5 not really being secure enough with they're not clearing out the roamers very effectively. They are taking the ground, but they're not securing it well enough,
No.
even despite having the Nomad.
I think in some situations you can afford to bypass roamers. When you move very quickly onto site, you can afford to bypass roamers and force it to be their retake. Or when you have very, very diligent flank watchers who are very carefully watching, using utility like tracks or air jabs, whatever, or just on the drones to make sure they catch those people moving and kill them and make sure they do not strike like that. But Hyperion 5 aren't doing that. We're bringing the Nomad again. We didn't have it last time. And I just... Or if we did, I didn't notice where the jabs went. And then they're letting these roamers exist and then sweep late on with no one there watching the flank. And it's... You can't have both. You know?
Yeah, Nomad can be good for potentially saying, hey, I don't want to deal with you right now. Jab, off we go. Which is kind of what Hyperion are doing. But there is a point where you do have to deal with them. And if they are persisting and staying there when you're trying to execute and they're nipping you in the side and you're saying, get off! I'm trying to attack the site. You have to deal with them earlier on. And that is a
essentially-
big weakness of the attacks so far.
It is. Essentially, a Nomad jab, if there's no one there to get a kill on the player thrown onto the ground, it might as well be a ping from a drone. Which is still valuable, but cool. You know that at some point, a few seconds ago, a person was in this place. They could have backed off, they could have pushed closer, you don't know. And that very, very quickly loses the advantage that utility gains.
Yeah, it's what I'm thinking. Maybe we could just see MP9 and Blue with the 4 men usually who are coming from the side, 2 pushing from underneath, just to try and fight off Jet. He's been there every single time with Ben on landing. Ben being the first man to fall this time will be an advantage for those defenders. Obviously, the Jaeger of Jet still alive down there by Astro, but having that man on landing dead is a huge advantage for the attackers at the start of this round, which should help them out quite a bit.
It's another rung on the ladder. The next one to climb is Kurt over in the corner of 90, but the fact that they still haven't dealt with Jet, who now is peeking his head up red stairs. The drone of Hazmat is nearby, but don't know if it's actually spotted out where Jet is. He's just lurking there below. I have a bad feeling about this. Unless Hyperion can start using these drones to clear out these roamers and then attack the site with some security, or attack the site with much, much more speed. If they attack, like, jump through study, send 4 people straight into site, I think that would find a lot of success and bypass those roamers. But this kind of combination of taking their time, clearing together slowly across the top floor, and ignoring roamers is a little bit... I'm worried about it.
It's a little bit, it's almost a bit too tentative from both teams so far, which definitely favors defenders at the end of the day. So that explains most likely the advantage in rounds for Esports Wales. It's going to be a very interesting switch. We've still got 1 minute remaining of this round before then for Esports Wales potentially to get themselves to a 4-2 advantage, which will certainly see them comfortable towards the end of this game. And Kurt is in a sneaky little position. If Leo is not careful on this drone here, he could be in trouble.
I think
I'm sure he noticed him just then.
Yes, he did. He goes for the shot, but he misses, and then MP5 lands at Jet elsewhere, comes up study stairs, and gets a kill down 90. He doesn't quite sweep for a flank, but he's still there and present outside of the site and shuts down another player of Hyperion. The grenades prepared by the Yana to push back, but there's still an ADS there. They haven't started clearing any of this utility. They push in, there are still smokes over them. Can't take that kind of damage up to half health. Kurt sweeps in, and he's one shot. Anything's going to do it, and there it is. A sweep from the a double kill with the SMG-11. Esports Wales taking what is given.
Well, if you exclude that first loss early in the round, they killed 5 men in a row without dying. A very, very convincing last minute of play from Esports Wales as Hyperion left it too little, too late, it seems, on that attack. Just a bit silly from them to let the game slip this much. I think the defense, we're going to see it favored for both teams. I would be very surprised if Hyperion, with the way that we've seen both teams play, not just today, but in recent games, I'd be very surprised if I didn't see the defense coming out on top again. In terms of rounds, maybe at least a kind of 3-all type situation headed into the towards the end of the game. But at the moment, halfway through, it's a good advantage for Esports Wales, and it looks like we're taking a quick pause.
Just a quick break here between the half. To be honest, I'm actually, like you said, I'm interested to see the half because it's so difficult to predict how a team will attack just from their defenses. Nothing spectacular from Esports Wales, to be honest. A good roam. I think some good play from Jet to kind of just tentatively exist out there to kind of probe up different staircases, not getting too eager to take fights, but constantly being there and ready in case it was really helpful. Not throwing away his life, I think, was really important there. How long he could persist out there. Hyperion just need to, I don't know, just make their minds up. It feels like I don't know if it's this kind of mentality of like, no, we've got this. We'll sweep in across together. We'll take across the site and we'll catch them off too quickly. Because if that's what they're going for, if that's the mindset as they enter these different sides of the map and they sweep across together, usually you see them moving 2 and 2 across from a single area, and then the fifth kind of sweeps around. But we saw like there with the Nomad, the rest are pushing across from landing and from 90. The Nomad goes to study, which is a good place to get those jabs, to cut those rotations down, but droned it out, still had flashbangs. In study, there were no ADSs. You droned out, knew where the Melusi was, punched, peeked. And in that moment, she knows where you are, you know where she is, roughly. She knows that you are in that doorway. You do not know where in the room she is now, because it's been a couple of seconds. In those moments where like you need to use utility, there's no one else to give you a crossfire or to refrag you. Those small moments, the Hyperion 5 just they're scattering themselves to the wind, and then they're losing those 1v1s, and that's really finding them with a bit of a problem so far.
Yeah, I mean, the more you spread out, the weaker you are. With it, if you're all stuck together in one clump, then losing one of those fights isn't too much of a problem because you got everyone else there. You've got the support. You have the team ready. If you're very spread out, it means you can win on multiple fronts. But if you're losing one too many of those fights, you are just lots of individual weak players not making it happen, which is pretty much summing up of the attacks so far from Hyperion 5. But switching over to Esports Wales defenses on the opposite side, obviously they've been the beneficiaries of tentative attacking, which has seen them have a lot of men left with a very little amount of time, which is very favorable for defenders. We've seen some great smoke play from Matt, but he's been somewhat allowed to persist quite often. And I think the operator choice is very strong from Esports Wales, given what their opposition is offering up. I think that utility they've got, especially those Evil Eyes, allowing. I mean, given how much so we're seeing what Iana, Zofia, Ashe, Hibana, Nomad, virtually every round, if not every round, from the attackers of Hyperion 5. There is so much to deal with Maestro and his Evil Eyes, and they are almost always still there because they don't seem to be targeting the utility of Esports Wales, and Esports Wales are just taking it. They're saying, okay, well, more utility. Have a Melusi. Have a whole bunch of stuff to deal with. And that has been fantastic for them. Now that we have switched, I'm hoping for a mix-up from both teams, to be honest, because you can't keep playing in that style on the opposite side of the spectrum.
No, it's true. I think they didn't have time to deal with the utility. With the smoke canisters, Evil Eyes, and everything else, they doing those kind of together big top floor sweeps, but then taking time to try and watch their staircases, to take those fights. They were often sacrificing Ben on the roam, but that did delay them a long time and leave them very little time to actually take the site and execute and deal with the site utility. But now we switch to defense Hyperion 5. They do have this Maestro, and it looks like we do have a pretty close roam MP9 over there by the stairs on red. And it looks like, yeah, just descending down red stairs, but I can't see too much else in the way of an extended roam like Esports Wales were bringing.
Yeah, a bit of a different lineup, but only slightly. It's just that Hibana that's really changed to the Thermite. Let's see, he's got those stuns in hand, so very, very little difference. I guess they're expecting less resistance on breaches potentially, as we saw Esports Wales bring out the Bandit as well as Mute at various points to contest any sort of breach. At the moment, it doesn't look like we're gonna see anything other than static Mute jammers to deal with. We talked about the Jaeger being played by Jet a lot last time around, or often a pinch with Ben, often on landing. This time we've got MP9 on this Jaeger roam, sneaking around behind. How can Esports Wales deal with this slightly more successfully than their counterparts?
Well, given that Esports Wales, I think, really took advantage of the fact that their opponent would use things like the Nomad, but then sweep across and then kind of let go of the areas they had been in. Jet knows that. Jet's playing the Nomad. Jet is aware of the fact that he took advantage of that negligence. So I'm really hoping that we see a little bit of a, I will take advantage of the thing that you messed up. Oh, but no, not through the drone hole. The attack has been to take 90, including that corner of Nipple, but as the Ash takes cover in the center, the drone hole exposes them to the Elder, and Leo chips away at the ankles until there is a man advantage for Hyperion.
Well, that's a good start to this potential execute for Hyperion 5. 50 seconds left to hold on with a man advantage on AVG. And the attackers relatively grouped up just that Thermite of Matt on an external angle. He's going to have a study fight up against this Mute.
But does he know exactly where he is? It looks like he's aware that there's someone nearby. Perhaps a recent drone call, but he's bouncing between his windows and he's by himself again. Both teams choosing to send hard breaches by themselves. They lose another by landing, and the peak comes out. Matt pushes in, doesn't know where to go. And Blue gifted with 2 to refrag almost there. Good effort from Kurt to try and go for that, but just too quick on the gun there from Malusi.
Oh, those smoke canisters, an absolute nightmare for the Zofia. Walking in blind with so many angles held directly onto her. Leo slugging it in the doorway, and he sends them forward with a nice victory. Hyperion 5, first time in a little while. 4-3 now for them on their defense. Obviously, they won their first attack on AVG, a strong statement, and another strong statement back. We can win it ourselves. They seem to be quite good at AVG. This is the trouble site though for Hyperion 5 so far. They've really not enjoyed attacking Trophy. Can they defend it any better? 6 picking off the Valkyrie, so potentially trying to bait their opposition into mixing up their own lineup, maybe to bring an IQ or something to change their initial plan. Trying to force your opposition off their default plan can work sometimes to mix it up, but they've not fallen for it, as it is clearly a 6 pick. Alibi coming out here from Leo.
Yeah, the Alibi is a great pick in general. The MX4 is a really shredding kind of gun. It's like a small chainsaw with the Bailiff as well. All the characters both very good sidearms by their hatches or just a good punchy pistol. I'm interested to see what actually Esports Wales bring to this, because strangely they did a very similar thing as what Hyperion 5 did in attacking from landing and master, and then sending a hard breacher by themselves to try and take hold of study, to try and do this from hard breach by themselves. If they do that again here, I can't help but think they're going to fall victim to the same thing that gave them victory in the past.
Let's see what this versatility can do for the defenders. Being droned out, Leo, early round. He's got that Prisma there, potentially. Catch off some of these attackers holding... as soon as they try and move in, it can expose them somewhat. You imagine they drone it first, figure out that it is indeed a Prisma, and then move on by. Really shouldn't cost too much for the attackers early on. It has been pinged, you can already see.
Yeah.
And is it a single-sided attack? I'm not sure where all these attackers are attacking from right now. It looks like a lot of them over by Study. Some outside Master, was that? Was there one outside Master? Was it the hard breach?
4, and there's the hard breach by themselves
Yes.
looking at Master. I don't know if the thought process here is to draw the attention of the defenders to the south, and then you strike while they are distracted.
Attackers have located a bomb.
It is
am yet-
relatively common. We've seen it a good amount in Reflex, the one hard breacher being over there. They often don't need the support, potentially vulnerable, but if the defenders are playing as passive as we've seen defenders play so far today, then it's really not much of a risk to leave your hard breacher out there by themselves.
We'll see if they can get anything done, however. They do have the mute jammers, and Hibana by themselves has nothing to deal with it. The Alpha C, however, is enough to deal with the roaming alibi. Now shut down, affording these attackers full freedom over by the AVG area to try and start pressuring the site itself, Trophy and Statuary. Hibana yet to really make herself known, but it looks like Stizzy is diligent. He knows there is going to be something from that direction, because his team did it. They did exactly the same thing.
Just waiting to see who on Esports Wales takes up this role of trying to get that wall open.
Oh,
Hibana's going to need
no.
help. MP9 with the MP5K, getting a lovely kill through the wall over towards the very tip of 90.
Oh, a grenade thrown towards the player actually flies back towards the Yana sent by that magnet. Distracted, peeking back to try and shoot it and escape their own grenade. Kurt is shut down. Mancat is equalized, however, as... No, it's not. It's in the opposite direction. Hazmat's only downed, and Blue is there to push back. Ben and Jet by themselves now. Ben on such low health as well. 24 seconds left to go, and Hazmat's been picked up. Flash grenades come out here. Utility here to flash the player. They're definitely blind to get the kill onto one. They sweep and they get the kill on the second. Equalized beautifully, but a wonderful shot. Peeks across Blue with the MP5. Well, no, with the SMG11. Jet is by themselves. Tries to sit the plant down. There's no other choice. But here they are out of time. The diffuser will go across the 00, and they're shot off it from the flank. The Maestro making sure the final kill in that round is Hyperion 5 win their second defense in a row.
There's a nice attempt at a comeback from Esports Wales in that 2 versus 4 position. They still had so much to do and really hadn't cleared out much utility either. I think it's the same thing we saw from Hyperion, that they're not prioritizing getting rid of a defensive utility, and often that is coming to bite them as well, because what's in its stead? What are they doing instead of getting rid of that utility? It's not getting kills, because we're seeing almost every single round coming down to attackers with a disadvantage or 5 players still alive with only a few seconds left.
It's one of those things that allows, like, to inspect a little bit of what your actual goals are when it comes to dealing with utility. Your goal of the dealing with utility is to get past it, not to destroy it necessarily, but often that's the easiest to do, which we have the Zofia, the Ash, coming out from Esports Wales again, to try and break these shields, to try and get down these castle barricades, to get rid of any Maestro cams. Maestro for the first time so far. If you're going to forego spending the time getting to the site and getting through it, you need something else to get past it. You know, if there's a shield, and we're seeing there's a lot on things like Cafe, attacking by Pixel Spot Print Piano, what would be an absolute utility soak. A team kill comes out from Blue? I don't know how that could be accidental. From the positioning there, there's no soft destruction happening there, and it looks like an intentional team kill on the pulse.
At all, and especially losing the pulse is going to be a huge disadvantage to this particular setup, given the fact that they look like they're going to extend Hyperion 5 to that vertical control, given the position of the castle barricades and the Goyo shields. They're going to be cut apart potentially with only maybe 2 men on site, depending on how they split it up in terms of men. And given that you've got the UMP wielding Leo as well down there as one of the only men, and despite the fact he is a good gunning player, we've seen him rock. I can recall him on the Ace on attacks in previous matches, rocking some strong performances. Leaving him with the UMP in that position, this would be the time to do quite an aggressive team take of either top floor or the site.
I mean, this is a laundry rush. kind of round. I mean, the castle barricades are a great combination utility there to hold that vertical, because vertical pressure here from the attackers can be really, really oppressive. It can open up so much of the site from above and deal so much damage. But the pings they out on these top floor players and the castle barricades are beginning to be dealt with. At Goyo's position given away. Dot finding his own information. And as the Zofia is there to help clear up on the other side, this is looking like a pretty quick sweep. Stizzy is downstairs, but we've seen a beautiful shot through a horrible bullet angle. Gets one kill, but the trade comes out. Kurt picks up the other player there to support. Stizzy, they're backing off, definitely the right choice at this point. 1 minute and 40 seconds wasted, however, and the attackers do have a man advantage. But as the time ticks down, the defenders a little bit more comfortable with that.
Taking out MP9 will be very useful for those attackers with how many kills he's gotten so far this match. Striking back the defenders, though, bringing it to 3 versus 3. 1 minute remaining. They've gotten over that initial team kill loss of Hazmat. Of course, utility is off the board, but still 2 C4s in hand. They've given up the vertical control, and now angles are being open. Those C4s could prove crucial. Maybe picking off a player, maybe even 2, could help when it comes to the execute. Of course, only 40 seconds left for Esports Wales to make it happen, and no first floor presence yet taken. Angles now being opened quite late. It's going to be a bit of a rush move here from the attackers. And Leo sitting underneath.
Taking a bit of a double take the Hibana. He's going to try and reconsider. These defenders are just like...
There isn't time to do it.
Kurt makes a good entry with the Buck. I think Buck, still a Buck is a vertical kill to clear up some of these defenders as the attackers begin moving in from Laundry. The flash is successfully landed onto Leo, and the plant begins to go down. There's no one quite there to deny the plant straight off. Both are close by. He peeks and almost lands a kill and misses the shot in the vertical angle there from Jet. Pressured from so many angles there. We saw the bullets raining down from above, and then the crouch there from the corner. A really difficult position there to be left in, and not going to help yourself when you give yourself a man disadvantage at the start. But bring us to 5-4. Esports Wales still clinging on to the lead.
We saw the same result on a dining defense from both teams, which is lack of intel on the plant a lot of the time, and potentially, the Pulse might be the man to provide maybe some resistance. He can check through all those walls in and around dining to make sure he knows what's going on. Losing him a big issue, but at the same time, not even potentially even just a bulletproof cam or something to check that position. But 2 plants in a row from both teams now have been allowed to happen in that position with players nearby as well. The Goyo sitting there, allowing it to go down. They know they have the vertical control, which if you want to take vertical control above dining, you open that spot between the doorways so that you cannot let them through very easily. I'm sure they were aware of that. So given that they've lost that control, they need to make sure they have presence in dining and stop that plant from going down. Because if that plant's down, you're done for. There is very, very little way you can test across or get across to that position very easily. And it was, again, just allowed to happen. So a misplay again on a dining defense.
Esports Wales really didn't give them much room to move there at the end. With that many vertical angles and the man advantage after they get that vertical kill onto that during that 3v3, there's so much to do there. I mean, you haven't really got time to flank up, kill the Buck, to take that vertical control to make that fight safe. I mean, even that is going to eat into that 45-second timer. And even then, it's a 2v2. Even if you do that and kill the Buck, it's still a 2 versus 2, where they have the diffuser down, which still massively favors the attackers. So a really steep hill there set that they couldn't quite climb. Looking really quite well put together, Esports Wales, in that particular attack. But AVG is the next target. And we're seeing a pretty similar take here coming in from Master Bedroom. We've got Buck elsewhere on the trophy entrance window, kind of probing in, having a little look across. It's a good window, and he makes his entry there as the drones flank in, make sure the area is nice and safe.
These rounds seem to be a bit of a battle between Jet and MP9, and especially now as MP9 is the roam player, and you've also got Jet on the Nomad. But just in terms of how rounds, defense or attack, have played out, if you kill MP9, a lot of the time it's looking so much better for Esports Wales. And similar thing can be said about Jet. Of course, neither of them. I'm not sure I can make out the stat. Is that 7 deaths for MP9?
MP9 is currently going 10-7. He's getting plenty of kills, but he's often ending up dead as well. Jet's going 7-4. But Matt actually leading a scoreboard on the side of Eastside Esports Wales, going 8-5. He's been an absolute menace with the SMG11 earlier on, but Dot puts MP9 on the ground, making sure he goes up in the deaths. Kurt is downed in the return. The attackers have done a decent job of taking control of 90, but not again!
He went revived by the drone hole and got taken down. So he's repositioned and the impact cannot get the better of Buck. But MP5K can from Wamai swinging around. Can he get the Ash as well? No, he doesn't. He takes a lot of damage onto Dot. Does not confirm it. So 3-all. Now the score, a lot more time than usual we see in this position for Esports Wales to execute, and a lot of utility. We see Jet expending his final air jab towards that plant. So post-plant should be very good for Esports Wales. They still have to get it down. And Blue is in a strong position to counter, potentially.
Asmat there as well, the SMG, I keep saying MP5. This means nothing gets a kill, putting them at advantage in the hands of the defenders. All those flashes now expended, but any blindness they inflicted has faded. And now with a Nitro Cell still in pocket and an impact on the hands of Leo, the sweep comes up, SMG11 shuts down Matt, and it's all down to Jet in a 1 versus 3. 10 seconds on the board, and they know exactly where he is. This is looking really uncomfortable. Hiding behind the shield, he's waiting for some aggression, but now they back off. They hold into into Vault itself. The pre-fires are there, and a peek from Leo shuts down the Nomad in the final few seconds. Hyperion 5 take hold of that round, and I believe that equalizes us at 5-5.
Very, very well fought in the end. I think that down onto the Buck really shook up the round from MP9. Of course, he died and got a down. So you'd think, well, you got a bit. It was okay. But it really cost some of the attackers there. One player taken out through the drone hole, and then all that kind of nervousness, that panic that we'd almost seen leave the game somewhat, suddenly came back, and the end of that round was a bit frantic, back and forth, and in the end, Hyperion 5 with some brilliant play to bring it back, and that some of the better play we've seen in this match so far from Hyperion 5 at the end of that round.
Indeed, Leo here bouncing between Italian operators here on Villa. He's bounced from the Maestro to the Alibi, choosing to favor her on these particular defenses. Now, the attacking lineup also looks to be pretty identical. The double soft breach of Ash and Zofia. We have hard breach in Matt's hands of Hibana. And then Matt and Jet, the Yana and Nomad. Are we going to see exactly the same thing come out? Are they going to push in from the study, sweep across and send Matt by himself, with maybe a bit of support later on? Perhaps. Have these guys all been watching the same VOD reviews to create their strats? Do they just have one analyst? Is there one analyst that just works for a bunch of T4 teams?
For the entire league.
And they have complete stalemates.
Yeah, they tell them exactly what to do, and it's just the same thing for both. Potentially, because it's rather samey for both these teams at the moment. I mean, they're both looking similar to where we saw, I believe, Team Zeta against Intensity as well here on this map. It was remarkably similar to this. There seems to be a very set idea of how to attack and defend this map in particular.
What I'm finding interesting though is, despite the fact that there's this kind of very similar mentality and very similar methodology when it comes to making these attacks and making these plays, at least we see Kurt here actually doing a bit of lower floor clearing, making sure there's no roamers in any of these little high spots with that Gemini, more than we saw Hyperion do on their attacking half. Yeah, I mean, given the fact that they're doing relatively similar things, it's interesting to see how they take advantage of that fact. Given that they know that they're bringing the Nomad, how much do you roam? Given that you know people are roaming, how are you using those air jabs to try and either keep yourself secure or to land those kills?
Again, we see attackers moving in from the opposite side of the map to the defenders, as opposed to moving in nice and close and putting some early pressure on. Opting for free ground and then moving from there as the base. And it's not worked too well for either attacking team so far. Esports Wales is the strategy they're going to go for, and they're going to get more damage onto Leo than they're going to take. especially now that he's been finished off by Kurt from underneath. A lovely bit of co-play and a sweep round from the Iana, as well as the extra kill onto MP9. That is some very, very strong attacking play that we are really yet to see so far this match, and it's great Esports Wales can step up in this moment at 5-5 to try and take this game to 7-5 potentially.
Indeed, that was actually a really nice 3-man move from Esports Wales. We had one player in 90 with a great wallbang into the player playing landing. We had one defender on red stairs, but as they were pressured, as Leo on the ally was pressured off, we have Kurt came up from underneath, pressured and pinned between both of those defenders got really, really quickly dealt with. And now we have the Hibana burning from Master. Impacts come out to try and destroy it, and players in bathroom there to try and shotgun off those pellets. SMG11 pops out to just make sure they don't get burned, and this is the cost of not clearing this area. By dedicating only Hibana by herself, she can't deal with this. She can't handle clear out showers by yourself. Deal with the player on site with the impacts.
Well, they've given themselves a tough job. They have to move in from one direction. And when there's an Alder at the other end of the tunnel, it's an absolute nightmare. He gets one, but cannot get any more. So the attackers coming out with the advantage. The Maestro is down, only has Matt remaining on the smoke. The plant is stuck by the Nomad. There is really very, very little chance he can get this revive off onto the Maestro. So just the Ash and Nomad to deal with one player remaining. Esports Wales in a very strong position, 30 seconds left for this smoke to act.
The pre-fires coming out will give away the rough position. There will surely be a drone, but no way he's actually go for this revive. It looks like the attackers very much on the defensive now, backing off these really passive angles. Eats a chunk as the Ash puts up closer. The location of the Nomad is known, but no warbang comes out from the Stizzy. He sees the end of the gun, he lands one shot, but he doesn't land a second. Esports Wales are there to make sure they can catch that really tense 2 versus 2 that just trades back and forth, but in their favor, that diffuser planted and Esports Wales pull themselves one step further.
Very close from the Maestro. Potentially an operator call could have helped him there, with the not just the positioning, but with knowing that he took out that particular operator, then sweeping around and being ready for the other one. But it was pretty much done by the early team work of those attackers. I think Esports Wales, they did enough with that great play earlier on to really just about have enough for that round. Of course, rushing in with 20 seconds left from one angle, having not really opened too much, is always very risky. They had enough men that they could just about get away with it. So Hyperion 5 won't be too happy with themselves there.
And you say that, it really came down to one of those 3 attackers that pushed in from Statuary managed to shut down and down the Maestro. But they really lined up. If they had taken half a second longer to land the shot to down the Maestro, I think that was really close to being an Alder 3K. Like, the fact that they're letting it get that close.
Yeah.
And, I can't help but not feel exasperated exactly, but feel a little bit like they're trying the same thing over and over again to no effect. Look, the Hibana, she could be playing so many other things. Matt right now, rather than taking the diffuser and going to Master, trying to breach something but not being able to clear it out by himself, play Jackal. Go hunt down the roamers that are playing you from the sides. Bring Ying. When it comes to these...
support, something of the like, it could definitely happen. In my notes, I have a massive bunch of block capitals between my notes for both teams saying lack of adjustment for both teams, attack or defense. They have their plan and they seem scared to deviate, which is costing both teams at various points. I think there have been few rounds that have been won, mostly rounds lost at the moment, which is rather disappointing to see. Hyperion 5, this is their last chance now, obviously, to bring it to overtime. Esports Wales, they stand on match point, and if there's any moment, we saw it last round, a bit more ingenuity, a bit more of a spark. Oh,
Blue checks the cam and lands a shot through the bullet hole prone angles. As much as I hate bullet hole prone angles and that kind of stuff, if you're making a quick Ash entry through that area, you really need to have droned it out first, which will have told you where that meat was playing.
Those angles proving very useful for the Mute at the start of this round to pull it back for Hyperion 5. They struggled, I think, at the end with the lack of men they had alive at the end. And now that they've got that advantage, it could be different because Esports Wales trying to do that same execute with a man disadvantage, it's not going to work for them at all. It was close with a 2-man advantage. They're going to have to get the better of one or two of these players. And it's Kurt's job to find out exactly where they are.
Gemini peeks into the site and tries to identify where MP9 is playing. In response to this, MP9 shoots the drone. He's spotted moving close to the door. He's landed great shots through that soft wall into 90 before. Impact flying out of the site, knocking Kurt to nearly half health. But he's still there to contest this long angle. And a bunch of shots in MP9, and there's the finish as he wallbang headshots the OMI. Hopefully he's gotten all of those magnets out, because if not, that's going to be a really big shame. But the man count is equalized. Minute left. We still have a defending Roma lower on the stairs than Jet.
He put a jab in behind, which is a sort of roam play we have not seen at all this map from either team. And again, we're not going to see it because the Mute is backing off towards the site with a C4 still in hand. He could potentially use it underneath as well. And now finally some contention on the master windows, but Matt still standing outside. Has he managed to open an angle yet? I believe he has. Yes, he does have angles open this time, which will make the execute a lot easier. 4 versus 4, though, still very difficult.
10 seconds left.
The plant may well be stuck. The Maestro gets a kill, but it's shut down in response of 2 versus 4 now. And the plant is stuck for those attackers. Hyperion 5, 2 players remaining, Blue and Leo. The final chance for the defense if they're not going to lose this game. Esports Wales on the precipice of a victory.
The coverage really stepping up here from Esports Wales. The angles are now established in their favor, and they are using them to great effect. Blue beginning to take some shots, but a prone angle. His position is known. And Esports Wales on the final kill onto Hyperion 5 and secure themselves their first win? Not their first win.
They won up against last week against Zeta, but that match may well be wiped off given the switch around in teams in the division. It's a bit of a fuss. I won't reveal too much because it's all kind of in the works at the moment, but it looks like Team Zeta have left the league and they may well be replaced, so that game might not remain the same. We know that Esports Wales certainly have lost their game against On-Site, and that's not going to be changed at all or messed with.
No.
But right,
I mean,
they will certainly be happy. I think we saw, actually, to draw comparisons with the game that may or not stay with Zeta, we saw them go to 5-all on Clubhouse against them, and then the last 2 rounds where it's been even all the way and they'd never quite had that advantage, they stepped up the last 2 to take it from 5-all to 7-5, and they did it again here today. They look so much better in those last 2 rounds than they had throughout most of the match.
They did. They really seemed to find a bit of momentum there, especially on their attacking half. They had a 3-3 attacking half at the end, which was enough for it. And on Villa, that's pretty decent in general. And the fact that they didn't have massive amounts of adjustment, but when they achieved what they were looking for, when the Hibana got those angles open, they really, really put them to work. They really got those covering angles across and managed to succeed. So there really were some really tangible elements of skill that I think will see them forward quite high in this league if they can manage to tie that with a bit of consistency and a little bit of adaptiveness to their strategies.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, that is match number 1 for today's set of matches here at Reflex Championship. So we're going to hop off for a really quick break, and you'll be back here in just a few minutes with another set of casters. I believe it's Cairo and Arctic Solo?
I believe so.
Oh, no. Perfect. Okay, still need some confirmation on that, but Cairo for sure to bring you some more Siege. So be back here in just a few minutes. Go take a quick break, get some water, get some snacks, that kind of stuff, and be back here nice and soon for some more Siege. For now, that's all from us. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys soon.
Why's it always seem like I'm moving backwards? Caught up in a dream, everybody's actor. Why's it always seem like people change faces and nothing is real? Oh yeah. And you know I see better days. Yeah, you know I've been through some things. Yeah, I've been sending prayers through the roof. Oh, truth. Yeah. Don't need all the answers, just tell me what life is for. One day I'ma wake up with a reaper at the door. Don't need all the answers, just say anything at all. I've been praying for a minute, I've been waiting on your call. Oh, don't need all the answers, just tell me what life is for. One day I'ma wake up with a reaper at the door. Don't need all the answers, just say anything at all. I've been praying for a minute, I've been waiting on your call. Oh, I've been waiting on your call. Oh, yeah. I've been waiting on your call. Oh, I've been waiting on your call. Oh, I've been praying for a minute, I've been waiting on your call. Oh, I've been waiting on your call. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been so patient with you, don't you know? I've been so down with you, and you know it. You never come around, and I show it. Just give me one chance right now, and I won't blow it. I won't blow it. Oh, and you know I see better days. Yeah, you know I've been through some things. Yeah, I've been sending prayers through the roof. Oh, truth. Yeah. Don't need all the answers, just tell me what life is for. One day I'ma wake up with a reaper at the door. Don't need all the answers, just say anything at all. I've been praying for a minute, I've been waiting on your call. Oh, don't need all the answers, just tell me what life is for. One day I'ma wake up with a reaper at the door. Don't need all the answers, just say anything at all. I've been praying for a minute, I've been waiting on your call. Oh, I've been waiting on you. Yeah, I've been waiting on your call. Oh, I've been waiting on your call. distant fate. When I call for you, all I hear back is pain. Every song must end, even diamonds fade. When the darkness comes, I'll count up my mistakes. We were the thunder and the lightning, burning fire that started from a spark. I would spin you just to watch you twirl. It was us against the world. You were the rain falling on my skin. Yeah, I was dying when you pulled me in. I was your rebel and you were my girl. It was us against the world. I was your rebel and you were my girl. It was us against the world. I had the roses, but never your heart. I lived a dream, now I'm in the dark. Oh, 'cause you ran away and took my life, and so ripped me to pieces. Just let it all go. My heart was on fire, but you let me burn. You got me wired, now there's no return. No, you took my heart, you took my soul. Rip me to pieces, let it all go. My heart was on fire, but you let me burn. You got me wired, now there's no return. No, you took my heart, you took my soul. Rip me to pieces, let it all go.